question is, what would happen if we were all out of our minds? See, just out of your mind is just taking a step backwards, isn't it? So that the mental activity is going on, and you've just taken a step back and just seeing it from a bit of detachment. See, all the mind goes on. There's no reason to stop it, but the observer has just come out of the mind and can just see it and smile at it. That's just mind. Just like a balloon going through the clouds, another of my favourite examples. And you look down and see all these lovely clouds. That's the mind. Thick, thunderous clouds and little white fluffy clouds. Frightening clouds, attractive clouds. Spaces in the cloud. And here you are in your balloon looking down on it all. Out of the mind, out of the cloud. The question is, what would happen if we were all out of our minds? Well, just that. I know it is a dilemma, isn't it? And yet there's a part of one that wants to ask questions and has these questions, and they can't be denied. Why should they be denied? Yeah. That's what we're here for. Why did you come all this way to do what you could do at home? We cannot be holier than we are, and we're all full of curiosity, of course. And although we can transcend questions for a few minutes and sit very, very sweetly in oneness, of course, there's still this active mind that wants to know, and if we can't get the question out ourselves, other people's questions are often enormously helpful, aren't they? They can all help to reinforce and encourage our infant understanding. So don't be afraid to put forward questions, if not because to help others, if not for yourself. Anything that any of you say will be grist to the mill and helpful to us. I'm looking out of the window. I'm just looking at the stones in that wall. And I'm thinking, well, those stones don't ask questions like this of one another, do they? They're just fulfilling their purpose in creation, just patiently holding up that wall. And then look at the trees. Do they ask these questions of one another, or the grass? Do you know, funny enough, I'm sort of rewriting a book now that I wrote nearly 40 years ago after a great experience in my middle years, what I consider the great love experience of my life, which completely tore me apart for years. And I knew all the theory by then. I'd been meditating for years already. I knew everything. I'd read all the books. I had all the answers. And I remember there came a point where I felt I'd become rather inhuman. I'd become, in a way, so holy I'd somehow forgotten to be a man. And here I was being presented with an emotional volcano. And I remember consciously embracing it. Because I felt this was somehow part of my completeness, part of what I had to learn, and that it was no longer good enough just to say, this is just part of the illusion, and I'm beyond it. It wasn't real. So in a way, I took it on board, and it made me a much more complete person over many years. So now I'm not afraid of these things, dear. We have these feelings, we love, we have negative feelings about things. Why deny them? They're part of why we're here, part of the human experience. And you know, there's a wonderful saying of Jesus, bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. Not from Jesus, it's in the epistles. And I think Jesus said, anyway, it doesn't matter. Bear ye one another's burdens, and think of Jesus dying for our sins, what that means. There's no need not to take on one another's burdens. But you see, by taking them on, taking on the whole burden of humanity, and then discovering this oneness. Now then, isn't that much greater than what's in it for me? You see? So, to begin with, this work is for ourselves, for me. Become self-realized, bingo. I found it. I'm there, I've found myself.
You got it.
Big deal. What about all the rest? What about all the rest of it? What about all the others? Not only other people within your orbit, all nature, cursed for man's sin. How about taking on some of that and beginning to work with and for others? See, to begin with, others is a sort of an impediment, really. We want to find our own way through. But then, as Rosemary is showing, you see, we are given the opportunity to take on board what others are struggling with. So we begin to meditation, perhaps, is to take on more the meaning of prayer. How can we best help the world we live in? What are we here for? What is the work, really? Why are we in this privileged position of finding something we refer to as one? Is it just for you and me? So take what we're given, take whatever we're given. Both our own uprisings and what we pick up from the street or the dog or whatever, from the food we're eating. And bear the pain as Jesus did. Bear your cross and surrender it. With and for others. You see, here and now, I don't know whether you've heard the news this morning, you've heard it in recent days, haven't you? Well, you know as much about the world as I do, probably more. Just take the whole lot, take it all. Don't reject anything. Neither your own little ego, nor the ego of anybody else. Open your arms wide like this, take the whole lot. Infinite expansion. Infinite oneness, isn't it? Infinite peace. Lucky girl you've been. You're being led on. The work is very great. Once you begin to get a sense of this bigness, in a way, the I, me, and the mind, it really just it goes out of the picture, doesn't it? It sort of, it just melts away before something that's bigger and better. There's no problem, really. We don't actually have to do anything. When the sun shines, you switch off the light, don't you? Nature doesn't judge us, does it? The grass doesn't criticize you for walking on it. It doesn't say, what about me, if we don't notice its existence, does it? The food we eat doesn't protest, does it? Well, it probably does if we were sensitive enough to hear it, but we don't hear it. So why are we so unkind, even to the ego? The sky doesn't judge the ego, does it? It's just there's no real need to us to condemn anything or get rid of anything or use such unkind words about things. So it's the old-fashioned way of dealing with the ego is just being unselfish, isn't it? It's just as simple as that. Just put others before yourself. That's what people have been saying to each other throughout history, haven't they? Every mother says to their child, don't be selfish. Yes, I remember being told that when in the school where I first learnt to meditate. There's nothing in this work for me. Of course, I don't suppose I understood it then. Yes, I think, as far as I remember, there was even a reaction of resentment against that. Nothing in this work for me. Didn't seem quite fair after all the effort of coming. I used to have to go down to London then to attend the school. It was a long, expensive journey every week. You, like me, have had periods of your life when you've tried to understand philosophy and read books that, that you didn't understand, then you probably get fed up with them. That sounds like real progress, Scott. The end of it all is to know that you know nothing. That's right. And that's the beginning of real knowledge. Remember, the wisdom of man is foolishness to God.